Bam! We are now officially live in the flesh with Mr. Nate from the Fat Stacks Academy. How are you, sir?
There you go. I'm doing good, Anthony. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. How's life out there in Hawaii? Right? You said.
It's good, man. Today's my son's 4th birthday, so I'm fitting this in right before I go run off to help get his party all set up.
Oh
So
my
it's a
God!
good
You
day.
should have told me. You didn't have to come here
He's
just for the.
he's at
Come on.
school right now, so
Oh,
he's having his party there, and then he'll have his party a little later at home.
gotcha. Oh, what is
Yeah,
the time difference? So right now
it's
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 7
two
p.m.
o'clock
Eastern.
here. It's 2 p.m. So he'll be home in a
Oh.
couple hours here.
Wow. Well, happy birthday to him. Let him know that Anthony Venture said it, and he'll say who. So
Yeah,
definitely. We also got Vincent Pasquale in here saying happy Friday. Oh, today's Friday the 13th.
it is also that very ominous.
Whoa, that's scary. That's kind of scary, actually. Richie, happy birthday to your son. Look at that. That's awesome. We got some birthday
Thanks, Richie.
wishes for Nate's son, 4th birthday. That's a powerful year. Oh, Lonnie, what's going on? Nate and
Hey,
Anthony
Lonnie.
Venture. What's going on, man? Sledge is here, which you were just reamed by Sledge on 20 questions of Sledge a couple
I
weeks
don't know
ago
if
or
I've
last week.
recovered yet, to be honest.
He hit you, man. He hit you with all the good questions, and I had to have you on as well to get some more backstory. And Kalani says, "Happy birthday to your son as well."
Yeah, thanks, Lonnie.
So appreciate everyone for being here, especially who's here live and everybody's in the VOD. I wanted to start out just asking you something that so I know of you from many months ago. I think you're at 1.5k subscribers now, so congrats on that. I know you're pushing for 2,000, and I remember I first saw your channel maybe at around 500 subscribers, what have you, something like that. And one of the first things, I don't know if someone told me this or you mentioned this on a comment somewhere. I don't know how I found this out, but without even watching your channel, I knew that you were the guy that blended your Venture X.
That's
You threw
true.
your Venture X in a blender and you chopped it up, and I think you actually canceled the card itself. I intentionally did not even try to really find that video. I mean, I did find it, but I didn't want to watch it. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
ask you, why did you blend up your Venture X? What was the story behind that, and what's the story?
Story behind it is I had just started the YouTube channel and I had decided I'm going to cancel the Venture X because it had been a year and I just decided it wasn't the best fit for me going forward because long context, I just bought a house. I had no travel planned in the next like year, so that $300 travel credit, I just knew the rest of the year would just be in the back of my head nagging at me to make some sort of reservation or something like that. And then I called to downgrade it, and the customer service rep said, "Well, we can downgrade you, but we can't refund your annual fee if you downgrade."
Mm.
And I called like 3 different reps, and it was the same situation. So I was very like frustrated with it. And then I just remembered old YouTube videos. Do you remember the trend "Will it blend"? There's
Yes,
like
I
a
think so.
thing, and
Yeah.
then one time someone threw a Chuck Norris in there, and it came out unscathed.
Oh,
So I
right.
thought, I'm not actually going to blend a metal credit card, but the thought came to my mind to just make a little script out, and I'm talking to the card, explaining why I'm canceling it,
Mm.
and very lightly turn on the Vitamix before turning it off with the camera. So
That's very funny. I like that. See, that's something
I,
that we need more in the community. We need more cards to be, or
I
at least.
just found it. It
Oh,
still
damn!
still survived.
Look at the
So it's
difference
a very
between a
solid
fresh
card.
new
Yeah.
one and a blended one. Wow.
Yep.
That is so funny. That is so funny that you freaking blended it. Have you ever thought
Don't do
about
that at home and
microwaving?
don't actually blend it. I've the thought crossed my mind, but no.
Okay. It's
I asked my
probably
buddy who has a wood chipper for his tree trimming service, and he's like, "No, I'm not putting a metal card in my
why
wood chipper."
not? Oh, that would be funny. Oh, that
It
would be
would be
great.
funny, yeah. Maybe we get to 100,000 subs, we'll put my Venture X in a wood chipper. Because
Oh, well,
then I can afford to fix the gears in there if it breaks it.
right, right. Well, we're gonna hold you to that, so that's good to know. And I want to hear more, maybe a little bit more in depth on the Venturix, because yeah, I feel like you have something interesting on that maybe some people don't know about. But a couple things here. Xavier with the 2 spot coming in hot with the celebration emojis. Appreciate you, Xavier. You're always here. You're the man. And I know you're going through a big move at the moment, Xavier. Me and Joe were talking about it, so definitely, take care of all that. So appreciate you, Xavier. And Mike Newland. Mike Newland, you're making it a habit now. You're making it a habit. You're coming in
Right.
hot with the 20 spots every time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's too much. I said it to you already. It's too much. Just, you might
Send
as
him
well
some
get
fat
something
stacks, people.
no, no, no.
Do it for
Thank you
my
very
son's
much.
birthday. Make Anthony rich.
That's great. That's good. Yeah, we're gonna take all the money from the kids.
There you go.
That's no, I'm just listen, subscribe to Mr. Fat Stacks. Frugal Dad knows you, he loves you. Definitely subscribe to
Hey,
Fat
thanks for
Stacks.
that.
But thank you, Mike, for that, man. That really much appreciated, sir. Happy Friday the 13th to you as well. And Matt Clausen says, if you bought the blender with the Venturex and tried to claim purchase protection for it when it broke, now that's interesting.
That
Something to
that is
consider.
a that is an interesting stack there. If you add that with Rakuten, that could be a pretty powerful connection.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
Juan says it right. The goal for 2025 make Anthony Venture. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you decided to end up blending the cards, so canceling it because you found in this year that you bought your house and everything like that, you're not going to be traveling as much. You don't want to have to be forced to make some sort of a travel with the travel credits. So you might as well just cancel it. How much was left? Like, how long did you have the card? Were you going to cancel it where they did not prorate the refund? Like, how much did you lose, really, I should say?
Oh, well, I got the full refund, fortunately.
Oh, you
So
did.
yeah, the thing that happened though is it was long enough that I canceled it and I had to make a payment on the card, and then they sent me a check in the mail like 3 months later or something like that.
Hmm.
It was some wild thing. I waited too long to cancel it, I think was the biggest thing. But
Yeah.
it was within that 30-day window where I could still cancel it. But I was honestly surprised that I couldn't downgrade it, which was my biggest
Hmm.
complaint. I thought, oh, at least I could go to the Venture One or something like that and just
Yeah.
keep the account open. But yeah.
Interesting. So I guess I had just assumed that you could downgrade it, but is it similar to like upgrading where you actually have to be like targeted to be eligible to downgrade?
I
Is that how it
never
works?
I never got to the bottom of it, to be honest. I was so frustrated with the experience.
Just
And
blended.
this was like, I think this was like in February, so I'm trying to remember how it all went down. But
Hmm.
basically, I called in after the annual fee posted like 2 or 3 weeks later. They would not downgrade, or they would downgrade me, but they wouldn't refund the annual fee unless I canceled
Hmm.
the card, is what they told me.
Gotcha,
So
gotcha. Yeah, so better off, yeah, better off getting the actual, getting that, given back to you and everything like that. Okay, so that's interesting. Wow, I'm glad you did that, but it's so surprising that they gave you so much pushback, like, oh, don't downgrade it, something like that. Hmm. Yeah, I've been like everyone else trying to product change my, like Quicksilver to a Saver One and whatnot for many years, and I never got targeted for it. So who knows?
it's feast or famine with Capital One. I feel like there's like people have really good experiences. People like me who just were not favored. Maybe yeah, I don't know.
Gotcha. Well, what drove you to the Venturex in the first place? Like, did you have it for like many years before that, or was that like
I
literally your
had it for
first
1
year?
year. This
Hmm.
was well before YouTube, I guess. I got about a year before. And I did have some travel planned. I was like, I'll really easily use that credit. I'll use the sign
Hmm.
up bonus. And at the time I was renting and thought I might be able to travel more.
Hmm.
And then I just happened to get a deal on a house, which I was not anticipating, which is
Hmm.
kind of what changed my entire life's immediate or my credit card trajectory going forward. Um, so yeah, I just got it for the sign up bonus. And I thought, $300 credit in the portal was easy enough to use at the time. But then I just remember when the annual fee hit, I just knew the rest of that year I would have that eating in the back of my head of like, you got to use this
Hmm.
$300 credit because you already paid for it at the beginning of the year. And I just had enough going on that I didn't feel like adding that to my backlog of things that are just in the back of my head of things I had to do. And I didn't have a trip that it was directly linked to at the time.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lot of people out there who fall into very similar situations, myself included. Very, very actually similar to you. Is I just bought a house 2 months ago, and it was kind of faster than I had assumed. It's also a little longer than I assumed too, but it ended
Yeah.
up being the right choice. But upon that, wanting to save as much money as possible, and same as you, like not wanting to, or not foreseeing me traveling at least for like 6+ months, something like that. I was like, do I really want to pay the annual fee on the platinum card like another year, even though I'm like not going to use it for probably at least 6 months, something like that? Do I really want to do that? So I ended up just canceling it for the exact same reason as you. It's like I'm not going to be going to lounges. I'm not going to book an FHR hotel. Like, what's the why am I going to do this? So I think it makes sense. I think it's a good choice. However, I do know that there's a lot of people in the community who would say to you like, what comments do I see? I see people say like, oh, the only people who hate the Venture X are the ones that couldn't get it, and the ones that cancel it, they live to regret it because they'll never get it again or something like that. Do you agree with that sentiment? Do you not care?
I know it's a popular sentiment because it is my most disliked video I've ever posted.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you look at the
Yeah,
analytics, like at the beginning, it shot up like crazy, but enough people they just love their Venture X, man. They
yeah,
weren't, and in the video, I say like for most people, there's really no downside to this card. It was just my specific situation where, at least for me personally, like I don't like the mental clutter of having to worry about something that may or may not give me value and then feeling like there's something tugging at me to make a purchase I
mm,
otherwise wouldn't in the future.
yeah,
Um, so overall, it's great. My thought as well was, if we really want it in the future, my wife hasn't gotten it yet, so we can probably just get it with the new sign up bonus that way with all the authorized user benefits as well. It'll work out just as well.
yeah. Totally makes sense. That's also what what Calby did recently. His wife got the Venture X, and now I'm an authorized user. He's an authorized user. The whole family's an authorized user. So it's I think it's a good thing. How did you use it for that year? Did you get like a real good test drive on it? Like, is it a card? Even though you feel like maybe the mental gymnastics of having to book something, you think it's a card you would
It worked
like
really
wouldn't
well.
mind
Like,
getting?
yeah, so actually I used the travel credit to book a flight for my mother-in-law to come visit,
Hmm.
which was great. It was like, oh, I didn't even have to put myself or my spouse on there. So I used it. I forget, I- if you're coming for travel tips and travel redemptions, I'll just tell you now, my channel is not the best one. um, I believe I used all the points just on travel purchases on the card at 1 cent per point, basically. I didn't
Hmm.
try to figure out, how the travel partners and everything else with the card.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah,
And that is actually a perfect segue to my next question for you. But first, I got to hit up Fun. Fun is back again from last week. Two spot, appreciate you, Fun. Just got approved for the A Barkley card last night. Very nice, very nice. The
congratulations.
yeah, so the one purchase and you get your 70,000 A miles. Very cool. If that is the one, I'm sure. So thank you, Fun, for being here and for saying that, and for the two spot. Appreciate that. Let me see a couple things here before we move on. Venture sadly is Mastercard because Capital One is Capital Uno, right? Yeah, so I think that's one of the
I
main
didn't even realize
issues with
that.
the downgrade. It's like, yeah, I think I thought that too. I thought someone told me it was Visa, but I originally thought it was Mastercard. It's like, oh, is it the same family? Like, is it going from a Venture X Visa down to a Visa, Venture or Venture One, something like that? But unfortunately, yeah, the Mastercard. Pretty interesting. Memphis Mike said, "I wish Capital One would give me the X, but my score is all over 800. Amex would bless me with multiple cards with credit lines of over 25K. Capital One hates me." Um, yeah, Capital One definitely has some crazy stuff that we get into, and so I okay, you know what? Before we move on, I just thought I have
Sure.
to sledge question: Anthony versus Nate, a cage match, a cage match. That is the
Cage
funniest phrasing.
match.
I love the
Yeah.
cage match. Who was on the cage match last time? Was it me and CJ? I think it was me and CJ on. Was it? I don't know. Was it on your? No, it was on your live. It was someone else's live. Yeah, Anthony and CJ cage match. Nate, no, I don't want to mess with Nate.
Mm.
Nate's in Hawaii. I've seen those Hawaiian dudes throw hands. You
I'm
must have
not
learned from
Hawaiian.
them. No, you learned from them
I'm a
though.
resident of the state of Hawaii, but
Right.
yeah,
Oh god. But I don't know. Maybe we'll sell some pay-per-view one day. That'd be cool.
maybe
I think
maybe we can set up a cage match. Loser has to be the authorized user on every new card application for the next
that would be
10 years.
fantastic. I think we could do. Do you think that there should be more cage matches in the credit card space? Do you think that's something we need?
I think we need to get off the fence and make it happen. I think there needs to be like a tournament in Puerto Rico this next year.
Oh my god. Who wants to fight Cesar? I don't know. I don't know if
I don't
anybody
know.
wants to fight him.
I don't think anyone. He would make a good ref. I think he would make sure no one got too messed up. I think. Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that on home turf too. Maybe. Hey, listen, Sledge. Let's talk about it off air. We'll see. We'll talk to Cesar. We'll set something up with someone. We'll put some matches together. Okay, so hell in a cell. Hell in a cell. Throw him off. Throw him off.
Oh my god.
That would be great. So all right, so getting back to it. So you just said like on your channel, if you're looking for like the best travel tips, like maybe you're not the guy for that. But one thing I think you are the guy for is to your name, which is the Fat Stacks, Fat Stacks
Mhm.
Academy. And it seems as if in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your whole goal in life is to sign up for credit cards, sign up for these banks, and to get as much money as possible at the end of the year, just like month after month, getting these bank account bonuses, getting these credit card welcome offers, cashing them out, and then using that for some other purposes that we'll get into. So do I have that right? Is that like your forte, what you like to do?
At this phase of my life, yeah, like there's definitely nuance. Like if I had travel on the horizon, I would realize, oh, there's definitely there's better ways to get outsized value that would save my fat stacks of cash, and it makes sense to use points here and there. But as of right now, like I just bought my house. My biggest goal is to, I'm a kind of part of the fire community. I want to retire early. But part of that for me right now is fixing up this house I just bought. So that
Hmm.
takes a good chunk of my financial resources.
Hmm. Gotcha. So you feel like because I've seen a few of your videos like getting this bank account bonus, $300 here, this one, another 300 here, or getting some Chase Ink cards and maybe cashing those I don't know, 90,000 point welcome offer out, $900 cash, like using that towards like investments, or using it towards like just paying for your house, or literally just using that for repairs on the house.
Yeah, all the above. It hits my bank account, and then it's like whatever makes the most sense. Either it's a house repair or it goes in my basically my investments, which is
Mhm.
just my brokerage account, buying into the stock market.
Got it.
Pretty simply straightforward. Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I see you do on your channel that I don't see very often. Maybe a couple people over the years, but you actively, like I just said, take out all of your welcome offers from these cards, cash them out into your bank account, and then actually invest it. And then you actually do the numbers on what this theoretically could be over a certain span, time horizon, like 20, 30 years, working into you and your wife's retirement. So I think that's pretty interesting. Have you always thought that with credit cards? Like, I know your life has changed a little bit now, but when did this
Yeah,
kind of start? You know?
it's kind of what got me into it. If anyone knows Mr. Money Mustache, I read his blog post
Mm,
10 or so years ago, and I was just kind of tangentially involved in credit cards since then. And it was actually 2023, end of 2022, that I basically discovered credit card YouTube, RJ's channel with bank account bonuses, and realized, oh, I can make some extra money here. I'd been trying to buy a house for like 5 years, and just my business during that 5 year period kept growing, but it was not outpacing housing prices. And
mm,
it was actually getting those bonuses that made me an extra like 20 grand that year, which actually made it possible for me to buy a house later
wow.
on. So it was just a way to get ahead initially. But the way I think about it is my biggest goal is to not have to work if I don't want to anymore. So build that fat stack of cash so I can live on 4% of it for the rest of my life, and then just kind of do whatever gives me the most fulfillment in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think that's pretty crazy. So you're saying literally, I guess the credit cards and the bank account bonuses got you like maybe you used to make 20,000 a year. That's pretty crazy. That's double RJ's goal every year. RJ likes to get 10K a year. You
Oh,
get
he
20 in a
he
year.
gets more than that though. If you actually watch his
Oh,
stuff,
really?
oh yeah, he does better than that.
Damn.
Between I think that's just for bank accounts. Like that was bank and credit card for me. So
Yeah.
he's
Oh, I see. I see.
yeah.
Wow. And do you think that, for, and I guess this is kind of going more of a broad question, but do you think more people, at least maybe early on, if they're like you or even I, trying to buy their first house, something like that, do you think more people should consider just the effects of getting all these credit card welcome offers, not necessarily using it for travel, but yeah, I mean, literally a down payment on a house? Like, what do you think?
I think bank bonuses are great for that. You want to be careful keeping your credit score and not a bunch of inquiries whenever you're trying to get a giant 30-year mortgage. So,
True.
if I knew I would have, like, I didn't realize it would happen this fast. I just happened to get a deal from a former person I rented from who offered to sell
Hmm.
me their home off market. And then I had to scramble to get everything together.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, but I think it is a way, like if you're in kind of the millennial generation, it's been harder than ever to get a house. And if that
Hmm.
is one of your goals, it is something to think about. But you do have to balance that with like where you're at in life. Like I was married with a kid, and aspirational travel just wasn't really isn't a thing if you have a 2-year old, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um, we've taken him on a few trips which are fun, but you're babysitting while you're traveling. It's not quite as fun as if you're actually out there experiencing things.
Hmm.
I think I will get more into travel as he gets older and can form memories and stuff, but right now it's more like let's just get our homestead up and running as efficiently and profitably as possible.
Gotcha, gotcha. And actually, I just saw Rodrigo here. He said housing prices in Hawaii are saying are
They
insane.
are insane. Yeah, like it's tough. Yeah.
So,
Rentings can be even harder though.
hmm,
Like we were renting here for years, and it's also very profitable to run your residence as a vacation rental. So multiple times we had gotten
hmm,
kicked out, and I have my painting business here that does really well, but I just couldn't get housing security even though, we made pretty good money
hmm,
until we bought a house, just because especially during COVID, there were tons of people who could work remotely with high salaries moving here, buying up properties.
hmm.
And then the vacation rental market is also very saturated as well with a lot of things like that. So yeah,
I see. And you said it's more profitable if you run them as vacation rentals. Are you meaning like
in
just?
in a lot of cases, yeah. If
Hmm,
you ran it as like an Airbnb, they're starting to crack down on that a little bit, but yeah, it's Hawaii is a big vacation destination, so you can in a lot of cases make more. It's not necessarily anyway. We get into a different topic there, but
yeah,
um, yeah, it depends on kind of what your goals are.
gotcha,
But
gotcha.
in most cases, depending on the location, you can make more Airbnb. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So then, with these bonuses too, like I mentioned, RJ has that goal of, I guess, just bank accounts only, 10K a year. That's like his goal. If he hits it,
I
if he
think so.
goes,
Yeah.
he's going over.
Mhm.
Do you have a goal for like money you would make every year from these bonuses?
I don't have a goal. I just try to when I see a shiny bonus, I go for it. Basically,
I see.
I'm not as organized as I wish I could have been, or
Mm,
as probably he is. But yeah, I just try to make as much as I can at any given time.
I see. And usually, this is what I asked RJ when I was talking to him. I was like, generally, I'm a fairly apprehensive person for some certain things. Like I was like, do I really want my name in like 50 different bank accounts? Do I really want to worry about my information everywhere? Even though everybody has your information anyway, I was like, is there anything with this? And he was like, yeah, honestly, it's like it's a concern, but not something he worries about. But did you ever run into any issues? Like you mentioned, maybe not have super high inquiries when going for a house, but did you have any issues with how many bank accounts that you, opened and stuff?
No, nothing with that. I gave my accountant a bit of an issue when she had to put all my 1099 INTs and stuff in, but that was about it.
As Mike says here, I could not imagine how many 1099s you get at the end of the year for tax
Hey,
purposes. Oh Lord,
yep, I got
jeez.
99 problems and a 1099, excuse me, 1099 is one of them for sure.
See,
Yeah.
yeah. See, right now I'm starting to get more of the 1099s for like the credit card. So like, I get a check from Amex. I think that might have been the only one I actually got last year, like some Amex checks for some cards. And it's like or 1099s, I should say. Not checks like Amex is paying me. That'd be great, but no. Um, and Sledge actually mentions I've opened so many bank accounts, no issues whatsoever. I need more banks to do. Can you turn bank bonuses and call it business for business credit card applications? What do you think?
I don't think so, because that's like
Yeah,
it's literally generally tied to your payroll. Hashtag not financial advice. Talk to your CPA
right.
if you're making that sort of distinction. But if you make a channel about it, though, you can whatever money you make from that. But I think since it's tied to your personal entity, if something ever came up where you got audited or a financial review, I don't know if they would look on that fondly.
I see. I see. That's interesting. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's one of those things for sure. So how do you recommend for people? Would you recommend anyone like how to get started in doing all that? Would you recommend just like simple, I don't know, Capital One 360
Yeah,
savings
I would
account?
start with the easiest ones. Like I would like I'd like to start with just the big banks like Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, because all those ones you can churn if you really like it in the future. And if not, they're used to people opening and closing accounts all the time. So it's a pretty streamlined process. So
Mm,
I would start with the blue chip ones, see how you feel with that. And then if you want to get more into it, you can start looking at credit unions and things of that nature. Um, if you ever want to like come up with the best list that I found, it's actually RJ's site. And if you go to
mm,
his bank account bonus by state, you can find a lot of times better offers that are local to you. Where like on my
mm.
channel, I only cover national ones. But if you want, say you live in California, there's lots of ones that are state specific to credit unions there, which is a really powerful way to look into it.
Gotcha, gotcha. So I want to bring it back to a little bit of credit card stuff. So that's pretty interesting, and I think that's really powerful. And maybe we go back to real estate a little bit later. But I was also curious. So we talked about your Venture X and how you blended it up and everything. What other cards do you have at the moment that you're using like on a day to day basis?
Day to day, I'm working on two sign up bonuses. One's the Altitude Reserve. I got that on the last day, thanks to a tip from Stan the Credit Prophet, fortunately. And then I got another Blue Business Plus because they targeted me for another sign up bonus. So those are my two main ones.
Hmm.
Um, and honestly, I'm still early enough in the credit card game that most of the time I'm working on a sign up bonus. I don't have like a sophisticated setup. When I was still renting, Built was my one rent
Mm,
card, obviously, but beyond that, I have those cards, and then I do separate my business and personal finances now. So I have a Chase Ink Unlimited for my business at the moment because I'm taking advantage of
mhm,
the 0% introductory APR on it
mm.
and just having one simple card I can look at for all my transactions right now.
Gotcha, gotcha. So you don't have necessarily cards that you would say is, I guess, more for the travel side. It's more so, as soon as you're done with a new card, you're just getting the next one.
Yeah, I'm actually debating keeping my business platinum card right now because I actually
Oh, really?
do use at least $400 in those credits. And then they just added that Hilton credit. So if they send me a retention offer, I might hold on to that one.
Okay.
Um, but I got the altitude reserve because I don't travel that much. So
Mm,
8 priority passes per year, including restaurants between my wife and I, is probably more than we would use anyway. And it's
mm.
really easy to recoup the value on that one as far as like having a long-term travel card. That's why I made it a priority to get that one before they weren't accepting new applications.
Gotcha, gotcha. Not bad. And are you also, because you mentioned like 0% APR, you're like utilizing that. Is
Mhm.
there, I know my friend Calby did video not too long ago where he was talking about how, taking advantage of the 0% APR period, using some of that money you would be spending on paying the card off and using that for like investments or throwing in a savings account. Is that, do you do those kinds of things too?
Oh yeah, I do a lot of that. I try to use as much of that 0% offer as I can. The credit limit, like on my business, for example, all my tax payments, I'm not paying that for another year. I'll take the 2%
Mm,
hit because it's getting, 5% in my savings account that I otherwise, or I'm getting a 5% return in my savings account that otherwise would have just left there by putting it on the credit card.
mm.
And that 2% transaction fee is, according to my accountant, tax deductible as well. So
Wow.
you kind of make a little bit more off of that. So yeah, on the business side specifically, if it doesn't report to the personal credit bureaus, I will hold a balance for as long as I possibly can before that 0% period is over. I don't invest it in anything that won't give me a cash equivalent quickly. Like I'm not putting it in
Hmm.
stocks or anything that could lose value. It's just something that has a guaranteed rate of return, like a CD or a high yield savings account. Because if
Hmm.
you don't have that money to pay it off at the end of the 12 months, then you lose basically.
True. True. Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of that guy I did a video with a long time ago, who maxed out all of his credit cards on the 0% APR period and bought Bitcoin with it.
Oh
Uh
man.
I don't know if you guys in the chat, if you guys remember that guy. That was 6 plus months ago, something like that. I spoke to him because I reacted to one of his videos where he where he did this, or no, sorry, I reacted to his Twitter where on there he mentioned like, yeah, he maxed out 8 different credit cards, bought 2 Bitcoin with it at 30K, something like that. I think that's what it was,
I mean, if you
and
still held on to him, he'd be doing okay even with that high
So
interest.
I actually reached out to him the other day because I have his Twitter. So I DM'd him and I was like, Bitcoin 100K, how you doing with that? He was like, yeah, man. It's like I'm killing it, something
Oh
like
my
that. So
gosh.
so he's having fun, with that for sure. But he had, before anyone gets any ideas, his plan was to like never like I think his idea was like the debt doesn't mean anything and never pay it
Mhm.
off or anything. So he was on a different level with that type of thinking and everything like that, which a lot of people disagree with. But I just think it's funny. Talk to some of those people. Um,
I'm sure he feels very good today. So
yeah, I mean,
hopefully
if
it's
he
good.
bought it at 30K, and if it was only one coin, I mean, yeah, he's up 70. He's
70
up
grand.
70 since then in a
Yeah.
cool 6 months, killing it, absolutely killing it.
I do not recommend that, and that would drive me insane. Seeing like
Yeah.
knowing you've got 30% interest hanging over your head and you don't know if you're gonna have the money to pay it off. Like it's
Wow. Well, that was the thing. His goal was literally just to once the 12-month period ended of 0% APR, he said, I'm just gonna sign up for another card and bounce transfer it
balance
over to
transfer.
there. He literally had it mapped out. He was like, based on the cards I can reasonably get, like 2029 is the year where I will run out of 0% APR
Oh,
cards.
okay. Well, that's interesting.
He
Yeah.
was like, as long as Bitcoin is above 30K by 2029, I'm good. So I was like,
So he's
actually, it
committed
makes
to
sense.
2029. Wow. That that's an interesting one to follow for sure.
Yeah, I fully expect to do a follow-up video with him like once a year until 2029 and see where he's at. It's gonna be like he's gonna have like a white background like last time. Then he's gonna have like like a slightly like glass behind him and like a city skyline. Then he's gonna be in a penthouse. Every year it's gonna be a new thing.
Then he'll be live streaming from his Lambo on Starlink by
Yes, exactly.
2029. Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so I think that makes a lot of sense for you. So you're getting a lot of these cards and you're cashing them out essentially. You're doing what most people don't do, and I think it's very interesting. And you even got you a house. I do want to dive a little deeper in that because I think we did something similar recently. And SmartThink actually mentioned give us the tea on his real estate also. When did he get into real estate? Is it good money? Give us the Ben Mala rundown on properties you own in ROI. Do you know Ben Mala?
I do not know Ben
Yeah.
Mala. Yeah.
Get him on YouTube. He's funny. He's real estate mogul. But yeah, what's the T on the real estate? You don't have to share exact numbers, but if you want
Mhm.
to break down, some down payments, some numbers if you want.
Yeah, so when I bought, it was what would it have been, September of 2023. So that was kind of
Hmm.
at the height of interest rate when
Hmm.
they're around 7-8% at the time. And landlord reached out to me. We had been trying to buy for like 5 years here in Hawaii. We would
Hmm.
sometimes even put offers in above asking, but at least during COVID, a lot of people were buying them in our area for cash with no inspection.
Hmm.
Um, so anyway, to his question, it was a house. It's just right around 600,000, built in the 80s,
Hmm.
and it has a rental unit attached to it. So as well as our primary residence, we're able to rent out a living space to help with the mortgage on it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it probably wouldn't be as feasible for me. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but the reason I'm bringing up the interest rate was really high because I was able to use a VA loan as a veteran. I was able to get it with no PMI, a low rate, and then I had to buy down the points
Hmm.
from like 7% or whatever it was down to I think it was 5.65%, and to do that cost me it was about 17 grand or something like that to be able
Yeah.
to lower the payment to something that we could actually get approved for.
Hmm.
Um, but since that rental unit wasn't factored in as income um, for the loan, that is money that we are. I'm not describing this very well. I know you do real estate, but
There you good. Yeah.
even though it had a rental unit, because of the nature of the loan, they couldn't
Hmm.
count that as my own personal income for
Hmm.
pre-approval. So, which is fine. We're approved for that loan now, and then we have that rented out and helping us with their mortgage on it as well.
That's, I
But
mean, yeah. Even though they couldn't qualify it, you'll
mhm.
make it back just renting it out anyway. Huh. So that's interesting. So I haven't heard that. So I guess on a VA loan, so veterans loan,
Well,
you
it's not.
couldn't.
Sorry, it's not just the VA loan. It's how the dwelling space was permitted as well. I think was the
Oh,
other
okay.
part of it. Yeah, but it wasn't. I think they didn't finish the full permits on it for it to be considered something other than just like a bedroom in your house, basically, even though it is structurally a separate unit.
Got it. Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. That must have. And did you know that going into it, like when you were
Mhm.
buying this house, you knew that it
Yeah, I,
wasn't going
I
to be.
lived there for 2 years. This is a
Yeah.
funny thing. We lived there for 2 years renting, and then our landlord kicked us out because she needed to reoccupy it. We
Oh.
moved somewhere else for a couple of years where she says, okay, I'm moving back to the mainland US. You just expressed interest in buying it. I want to give you guys the first crack at it before I put it up on the market. So
Hmm.
that's how we ended up getting the deal in the first place.
Wow. So I think there's a lot of people. I think Smart Thing and a few other people I saw that were looking to get into the whole real estate game. Buy some houses and stuff like that. So I think this is great. Actually, I think we should dive a little deeper into this. So that's interesting. So you mentioned, okay, you bought it. Height of the interest rate. So I'm assuming that, yeah, the rates are around 7%
Yeah, it was like
out there.
7% then, I think. Yeah.
You weren't eligible based on your income to qualify for the house normally, but to be able to qualify, you had to pay down points, right? That allowed
Yeah,
you
my
to.
debt to income ratio was on paper. Um, well, so here's another wrinkle. I'm self-employed, so my
Mm,
business probably did do enough that year to be pre-qualified for it, but they only base it on your previous 2 years tax return, not your current income for that year, at least for that
mm,
loan. So I was working off of less money than I was actually making at the time.
mm.
And yeah, my max debt to income ratio at 7%, I wouldn't have approved for it. And I also probably wouldn't have agreed to, a $5,500 mortgage or whatever that would have been without buying the points down.
I see. I see. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I could see that. See, I also ran into a similar situation with this house where, it's good for a lot of people to hear because going through it, you'll kind of learn these little things and stuff. But yeah, like you said, most of these loans, of course, there's some loans out there that allow you to qualify with like 1 year, but for the most part, 2 years worth of your employment. And I did not file a tax return on the YouTube channel for the first year, and I did on the second year, which was this last year, essentially my last year tax return. So I wasn't able to qualify my YouTube income at all for this house for that because of that, and so I think actually now I think I would advise people, anybody who's starting like some sort of a business. I almost feel like it makes sense if the make a dollar, even if there's a way to like not make any money, just file a tax return on
Yeah.
it, just so you have that year of history. So this way they can combine that with the second year. I think it's kind of worth it. And in hindsight, I really should have done that. It didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but I actually think just getting a tax return on whatever business you're starting, I think as soon as possible. I think it's pretty important, personally. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely helps. The one down, at least in my case, like if I made zero money in my first year, it would have really not been great because it's the average of your 2 years, your previous 2 years. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, if any little bit of income, even if it's half or whatever it is, helps if you're trying to get approved.
Mhm. And I guess in hindsight, I guess for I guess barring everything else. So for those who aren't aware, buying points down, we mentioned that a couple times. You're essentially you're essentially giving money to the bank to lower the interest rate from what you mentioned, like 7% to the, I think you said 5.5, um,
Yeah.
around there. Um,
5.65, I think. Yeah.
5.65. So you literally got 1.4% less on your rate on a fixed 30-year loan just by paying, well, $17,000 out of pocket,
Yeah.
to allow them to do that. So this way you're not buying the house at 7% for 30 years. You're buying it at 5.625 for 30 years. Just for those who aren't aware. But in hindsight, considering rates are starting to come down a little bit, do you feel like it might have been better to not uh buy down that rate, and to just wait for rates to come down a little bit, or you still don't care?
Um, in my situation, no, like I just needed a place to live, and it was the
Yeah.
house we wanted. Um, so and it was for sale then. Uh, I live in
True.
a town of like 2,000 people, so there aren't a
Oh
whole
wow.
lot of options. So it was this is not very universal advice, but to some degree, I think it is. I think if the deal makes sense for you, you don't know when interest rates are going to go down. You can only work off of um,
Yeah.
what information you have at the time. But like what you're saying, I remember having that thought of like, well, what if interest rates just go down and I drop 17 grand on this? I would talk to your lender. I think if they did go down, and at least with the VA loan, you can get a very low closing cost
Mm,
refinance. They I believe that there was a way to either take some of that money and move it into your escrow and lower your payment for a little bit. I
yeah.
think this was like a year and a half ago now. I'm trying to remember all the details of it,
It's true though,
but
because
that's a really, I'll just say that's a really good question to ask your mortgage provider. Like, what happens if this happens in 6 months and this happens in a year? Like, can I get any of these points to buy down? Essentially, yeah.
yeah, definitely. And you mentioned a great thing about, or at least in your case, the VA loan. I think there's actually, if for those of you guys who have any Navy Federal, ties, if there's a way you could get a Navy Federal an account, some of their loans are very interesting. Calby actually found it recently, one where you can quite, I mean, you just have to have a Navy Federal like relationship, and you can take their
Is that it?
loan. Nothing special, and you can literally like, I think it's, you have to have the loan for 6 months. After 6 months, you could refinance for like, I think it's like $0. You can refinance. Where typically, you have to refinance, and you're paying probably a few percent on the loan again. So thousands, $10,000, something like that on a home, just to refinance at a lower rate. But this one is like, if your loans are in there for 6 months, after that, you don't. I think there's a certain percentage it has to drop. Like the rates have to drop a certain percentage
Mhm.
low enough, and then you can refinance with like no fees. It's actually pretty interesting to look into for you guys who are into that kind of thing. Definitely. Clairvoyant says something interesting. Not when you're self-employed, take it when they give it to you. Getting refinance in the future is never a given. I think that's also a good point for a lot of us who are self-employed. It's like, Yeah, I mean, like businesses can, your business can just drop in revenue the next, next year, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
you qualify for less house, so you can't refinance the house anymore. So it's like if you can get into the house now, that's all that matters. As long as you can just make the payments, you're good. No one's taking anything from you. Hmm.
Yeah, and it's just it is so hard to get into a house. Like we probably put in like a dozen offers on other places. It might be easier now, but at the time it was just so frustrating, particularly being self-employed versus um in my case here on the island, there were just tons of people buying with cash from the
Mm.
mainland, and it was really difficult to compete with.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues right now. Still, at least in some of these like growing population areas. I'd imagine Hawaii still is like with all those cash buyers. South Carolina, there's a few states, obviously Florida, a little bit of Georgia. Just so many people who are coming from California and New York and Ohio who have cash, and they're going to buy that and buy your houses completely in cash. So it's like hard to compete. So do you have any advice for anybody who's like competing with people who are, cash buyers and stuff like that? Any thoughts on how to, beat them for a deal when it's so tough?
Um, no, sadly, like I remember asking like my realtor, is there anything we can do here? Like, well,
Yeah.
put a nice cover letter, put a picture of your family on there. Maybe they'll
Right.
like, see that. But I mean, at the end of the day, when someone's selling a house and you don't know them,
Yeah.
they're gonna take the offer that if it's cash going into their bank account, then they don't have to deal with like, wire transfers or
Mm.
not wire transfers, but just like mortgage stipulations or like a last minute thing the mortgage company requires for you to
Yeah.
fix for it to close on the deal. They'll take the cash, no inspections. So um yeah, best advice is buy from someone you know, or get a lot of cash, or because like in my experience, like I would even put in offers that were like 1,000 above asking, and we would still they would take that and leverage it for the cash buyer, saying, "Oh, we have this,"
Yep.
and then they would throw in something else. Yeah,
Legit. I think those are some great points. Especially on the cash side. It's like as I'm a realtor here in South Carolina. There's so many people that they put offers in, and then they just don't. They never close. They never close because something was wrong in the underwriting process. Something was wrong with their bank statements. They didn't have down payment. They thought they were making enough income. Like a million different things. After you sign everything and you put the contract in, like, oh yeah, we're going to buy this house, then you find out through the underwriting that some things were messed up from the lender, and now they can't buy the house. And now that and then you lose that. So it's like when you see a cash deal as a seller, it's like, oh, perfect. I
I
don't have
think
to think about it.
the best thing is to get a good relationship with a realtor that you really trust, who's on it, and you could getting in as quickly as possible is probably your best bet. Like if you can be the first one in before it has a lot of showings, they have a deal, maybe that would be something that could give you some sort of advantage. But um,
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm not a realtor
No, I gotta
myself,
say,
but
no, I
yeah,
agree. And Xavier actually says we didn't even get to see our house with how fast the market was. We couldn't give the seller time to accept any other offers. Literally, it's crazy because you would think, oh, the rates are so high, there's not going to be as much competition. There's still basically as much competition as I've seen in like these hot, some of these more, emerging places, a little more important places, I guess, not important, but people are still moving there. And it's so true how fast it is. Every single house my wife and I went to go for out here, within 24 hours, offer and accepted, and now it's in contingency, and they're starting their due diligence. I'm like, wow. It's like you literally can't beat them. So once we eventually got to this house in my, my, for my personal situation, when we found this house and it was like, okay, it was the one, I literally said to her, and we actually came up with the same number. I was like, I don't care about anybody else right now. I'm getting this house regardless.
yeah,
I don't care what anybody's offering. Like I had already known the night of that there was an offer coming in. Like I called the realtor. I said, hey, what's the deal on this house? Do you have any offers already? What's going on? And so she was like, well, someone said they're going to put an offer in, but I haven't gotten anything yet. And I was like, okay. I need to go home and write up the contract immediately since I was able to represent myself as the realtor on buying my own house. I was like, let me run home, write up the contract, have everybody sign it, and then
Yeah.
send it over to her. And then she texted me at like 7 p.m., something like that. She was like, just got the offer from that buyer. Just make sure you send me your offer before 12 p.m. The next day, meaning that agent sent in an offer that was like, um, this offer expires by 12 p.m. the next day. Typically, like 6 p.m. is night. Most people do like 6 p.m. the next day, something like that. So immediately I was like, by 7 o'clock, she texted me that. By 9, I had an offer in, and I'll just throw out a number. Let's just say the house is 300K. I said, screw that. I'm not offering asking. I'm going well and above. So I offered like 325, just something like that, like a good amount over asking. I said, I don't want to play any games with negotiations or anything like that. I just want to get in there. I don't care if I'm overpaying, and I'm going to get in the deal. Lucky enough. Yeah, I mean, I definitely blew the other offer out of the water. I don't know what they offer, but it was probably like a 305, a 310, something like that. But I
Mhm.
was just like, I don't even care. I just want to get in the door. Just like you said, it's like if you can get in, it might as well get in because of how fast certain things are moving. The only thing, though, I will say as a caveat to that is you also have to make sure that the house you're going to buy will appraise for what you're trying to get a loan
Yes.
for.
Yeah.
It's like,
Y
okay, cool, you offer 325, but the house from the bank side is only worth 300. So what happens
Yeah.
in those cases if you offer 25K over, even though that the house doesn't appraise for that? Well, the bank won't loan you on your offer. They'll only loan on what it's worth, which is 300. And then there's some things in between. I don't have to go into it, but little clauses that state like, okay, I'll come out of pocket 25K cash just to get in the door, and then 5% on top of that on the
Yeah.
300K, which is what I actually agreed to. Actually, on the personally, it's what I agreed to. I was lucky though; the appraisal came in like 1% over what I offered anyway. So I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So that's my long-winded thing. It's like, listen, if you think, if talk to your realtors, whatever, but if you think the house is like worth it, you really want it. I don't. In this market, I don't know. I don't really care about offering a little bit more, like just a little bit more. I don't know. I'm happy. you know.
Yeah. If you know you're gonna live there for, I mean, was it 5, 10 years at least? What
Yeah.
do you think the house is gonna be worth in 5 to 10 years? Like, it's probably gonna appreciate, and if it meets your needs, uh, I mean, there's so much time and energy that goes into making this big transaction. It is such a relief once it's done. Like, you're
Yeah.
literally spending, at least for me, like, I felt like I was spending an extra 10, 20 hours a week just trying to buy a
Yeah.
house. It's like, if you had that time back, like, that's worth spending a little bit of extra money, at least in my opinion, to
Yeah.
just get it done if it's something that works for you.
I think so, and I've represented so many people who do try to nickel and dime, and I get it. Everyone wants to get a deal, but sometimes you just can't. I think sometimes you just obviously you get like sometimes you can't. Meaning like if you have to buy a house, you just have to buy a house. A place to live. If you want to get out of renting, you just kind of have to. If you don't really care, you're just sitting on the sidelines. Then yeah, wait for a good deal. It'll come up. But
Yeah.
if you're just trying to get the first house, I just feel like after helping so many people buy theirs, I'm like, you know as long as you can get in there, it's a good offer, it's a good house. There's not going to be a million different issues. Then you're cool. And even in my situation, like I literally, asked, I offered like, I mean, what was it like 8% over or something like that, so close to 10% over, and it ended up appraising for 1% over that. So I actually like earned back a good amount on the down payment already
Mhm.
from that house. So it's like, it's just a way to think about it. I don't know. Fitzabisqual says, "What do you think of buying property in another country, whether for an investment or retirement?" I don't know. Any thoughts, Nate?
Uh No, I haven't looked enough into that to have anything, yeah. I'll just say it's a good question, Vincent.
It's a good I will say,
Um,
Vincent, I will say, I have seen, I think and now in a couple places, I think in Japan though, you ever seen those where it's like, oh, Japan, they'll pay you to move into this house
yeah,
because it's like a dilapidated, abandoned, house or something like that. And they're like, oh, we'll give you like a grant of 20K to come and fix it up. Hey, might be worth
I
it.
mean, it could work, like, if it's somewhere you travel a lot, like, now that I've had a minute to think about it, I do have a lot of clients here who have their they have their home here in Hawaii, and they live here 6 months out of the year before they go back to Canada because they like to escape the summer months. And then while they're gone, it's basically just rented out as a vacation rental, so they're able to
Mm.
cover some of the costs on it.
Yeah,
So it
definitely.
can work, especially in today's world of like Airbnbs and things like that. If there's a place you really like to live, you know the area well, it could make sense. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's I wouldn't think of that as more of an investment for me personally. I'm pretty boring. I just want to put my money in the stock market and get a pretty
Right.
standard rate of return. But if it's a lifestyle goal of yours, it is one avenue to make it work. At least from some people I know here.
Yeah, that's what I think. Like Josh mentioned, is also little village in Italy, free house. Yeah, I see
Yeah,
some people joking like, "Oh, I'm I'm looking to retire in Tuscany." You know, that's like the thing. Like I'm trying
yeah.
to retire in Tuscany, and I keep getting those things on Instagram. There's like some realtor in Tuscany who keeps showing me like $80,000, €80,000 townhouses. And I'm like, yeah, it does look interesting. But no, I think to your point, it's like, do you travel there very often? Are you already so super familiar with that area? Then I think it would be, I think obviously the loan process, I think it's totally different, but I think the main thing is like knowing the area first. It's like it's a good
Yeah.
area. Do you have experience there? All that stuff. Um, and Fillmore has a good point. I would live in a, in a drug house in Japan, a crack house,
Hmm,
if he could. So that's good to know. Um, Texas Dog says, Josh, the free house probably needs 400K renovations to be habitable. Yeah, I mean, look, hey, but listen, Italy, if you have some ties to Italy, you can get some citizenship right now.
it's true.
I think they might pay you actually a little bit. I might have to do that. Um, Also, John said, my house value is up 100% since buying in 2017. I would love to buy another 500 square feet, but there is nothing on the market, and I have realtors calling me to see if I'm interested in selling. Wow, that's interesting. You ever have realtors call you now with your house, being like, hey, look at the sell?
I don't have realtors, but when I closed on the house, like we had that rental unit, and rentals are still really short too. I had people I'd never met before just drive up and say, "Hey, what's going on with this rental?" Because it's kind of a small town. Everyone kind of knows the news, but
Mm,
there were like a half a dozen people come to like unannounced before we had even had our own stuff moved in.
hmm,
Um, haven't had any realtors call me yet, but I did talk to a few recently, and inventory is very scarce still. Like they aren't building fast enough for demand right now.
definitely, definitely. Um, I also, you just said something interesting that I was thinking about as you're talking is you said you're boring and you like to just throw your money into like the stock market and stuff like this. And this
Mhm.
this is actually something I've toyed with in my mind for many years. Someone who's been in the market for 6 or 7 years, something like that, and have been wanting to buy a house for that amount of time. So I have way more experience in stocks and stuff like that, investing versus the real estate. Even though I'm an agent, this is my first time buying a house, whatever. But I've often thought about the dilemma of like, obviously, yeah, we could say in a world, yeah, have both. Okay, that's the main thing. But I've
Mhm.
often thought like, do I want to have a bunch of different rental properties where I have to worry about managing that, or do I just want to amass like a great stock portfolio that grows, over time and maybe into dividends too and something like that. And I've often thought, what's like the easier path? And I almost feel like the stock game, even though the fluctuations can be crazy, I think it might be maybe a simpler path for a longer period of time, like less to actively manage, if you know what I mean, versus real estate. But have you ever had those thoughts? Like, do I want to deal with
Yeah,
this?
like I remember when I was 18, I read this book and I fantasized about somehow magically getting a loan and renting out the rooms to other people so I could live there for free. And I'm sure if you've been on YouTube enough, you've probably seen a short about that.
Hmm.
And I think it can be a really powerful way to get to wealth if you want to basically create another business and learn that trade and learn how to do it. But I think of that a lot more active than just like dumping your money into the stock market. Um,
Mm,
and I guess the benefit on real estate is you have more control over it than you would in the stock market. Your skills and like finding properties, if something's undervalued, you know how to fix it or know how to find the right contractors to fix it, or you have a good network, it can be really profitable. But for me, it just sounds like a bunch more work. Like I already have my own painting business that I'm happy enough trying to grow with, that even though I do kind of work in home, I don't have a big desire to like add another. You get an asset, but you also get a liability in that mortgage, and having another liability I have to service.
Hmm. And yeah, it's true. Like a guaranteed overhead. Even though obviously it can be rented out, but still, if there's vacancies, which there always will be, you
Oh,
have
one
that.
point I will say with real estate though, that is a really powerful thing. Two things: depreciation on your taxes is massive, and two, cash flow today versus like later down the line when things have compounded, in some cases decades into the future. So if you
Mm,
want cash flow sooner, I think real estate, that's a big consideration. Like you could potentially get there a lot quicker just based on the cash flow versus like investing into the stock market.
hmm. Definitely. Actually, I have a couple things here. Texas says buy dirt. Hey man, listen, I have been looking. I have been looking in South
Hey, they
Carolina.
aren't making more of it.
That's right. And Don Kim says invest in parking structures. That's something my dad used to tell me growing up. He was like, "Listen, if you buy a nice parking structure in Manhattan, you're always gonna have money." I'm like, "How are you gonna get a parking structure in Manhattan? I mean, come on."
Yeah.
Um,
Like,
but
go own a bank. Why don't you just own a bank, dude?
right. But it's true. I remember looking at one. Not because I forgot how I even stumbled across it, but I think it was like a $2 million parking structure right on Beacon Hill in Boston. And I think I remember. I don't remember exactly what the money it was like monthly or yearly, but it was like it was like close to that. It was like close to that
Yeah.
already from a $2 million investment. I was like, that's pretty interesting. What's going on, Bautista? What's poppin', man? Happy holidays. So before you get going, Nate, I wanted to say, you seem like somebody who's like after talking to you for a little bit, and this is my first time meeting you. You seem to be very relaxed about certain things, or you want to have the easiest path possible. So like you mentioned, you just want to put in stocks. You don't have to deal with much. Um, if that's correct. And then you mentioned a couple times like fire or lean fire. What's
Mhm.
what's the deal with that? Because I have been seeing that. I saw that many years ago, and now I'm starting to see it again. Like this whole movement. But what is that for people who don't know?
Yeah. So financial independence, fire early, or fire for short, is basically just a goal you can have for yourself to retire faster than like you would otherwise be eligible for Social Security. The bullet points way to get there is you look at your annual expenses, and once you have a nest egg of 25 times your annual expenses invested, you will have enough to live off of the rest of your life, which is the 4%
Hmm.
rule. So, say you have $40,000 a year worth of expenses, you just need $1 million invested to withdraw that amount and not have to have any other income outside of that nest egg, essentially.
Hmm.
Um, the reason I like it more than just having a specific like large number is because you can attack that number from both sides. You can live more frugally to lower your annual expenses so that you can balance that against your daily work, essentially.
Hmm.
So I was thinking about this the other day. The way I think about it with travel and experiences is you see a lot of videos out there of like how you can get 10 cents per point on a first class flight, right? Because it's so much more money. But you can often get that same flight in coach and it's only like 1.5 or 2 cents per point.
Hmm.
Um, but say you took, you know, those triple points or whatever and invested it, and then you're not working at your day job 3 weeks sooner than otherwise, right? Because you have
Hmm.
that money invested and you still get the experience. You just don't have a hot towel on your first class flight over there. So, um, yeah, so it's just thinking about things like that, like how do you value your long term time, and that's kind of how I try to look at it, more than just the experience behind it. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I guess just to have the definition down. So fire typically is 25x your expenses. What is lean fire, or is that what you described?
Yeah, I mean, 25 times is like that's the 4% rule. You could do that
Yeah.
with what they call fat fire or lean fire. So lean fire
Mhm.
would just be like your bare minimum and you're not traveling very much. So I don't know
I
if I'd
see.
call myself lean fire, more like just regular, I guess.
Interesting.
Where fat fire is like, you want like 200-300 grand a year. You want to be able to travel the
Mm,
world and everything else. But lean fire is like, I freaking hate my job. I want to get out of this as quickly as I can.
I see.
And I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit more in the near term to get there a lot faster.
I see. And did you have a moment like that where you were working for somebody and you were like, this is just nonsense. Like, why am I doing this? I don't need to be here. And then, starting businesses and this
I
all
think
this.
if we're honest, we all have moments like that every week at our job. So even though I'm self-employed, I have that feeling of like, would I be working on this cabinet right now if I had X amount in the bank? Probably not. So overall, I'm happy. You have to balance like enjoying your life now, but the idea of working towards something and putting value on your future time for me is like really powerful and really gratifying, and makes it feel like I'm not giving up on things as much as like basically giving myself a present in the future. Yeah.
I see. I see. Yeah, it's one thing I noticed from sorry, don't give my self-employed friend hates his manager. It's great.
Hey,
Uh,
that's truer than you'd think. You sometimes you work yourself a lot harder than you should.
right.
So
Texas Dog saying, "Good show. Appreciate you, sir, for the two spot. Thank you for being here and telling us to buy dirt. I'm gonna take that two spot. I'm gonna buy some
yeah.
dirt with it. Actually, that's what it's gonna go towards the dirt fund. So thank you, Texas, for being here. For sure, and everyone else. Okay, so yeah, and that's one thing I do notice with the folks. In fact, clairvoyant in the chat here, he's also missed another Mr. Fire movement, and it's interesting. I think it's just very interesting, to try to, I don't know, live as maybe in some cases as cheaply as possible, or I guess if you're a fat fire guy and just going crazy,
Yeah.
balling out, but yeah, have that sustain you over a long period of time. I think it's interesting. It's funny, talking to some folks who are maybe 2 or 3x my age, talking about like back in the day where it's like, yeah, you just gruel, you just work at the job, you gruel on it, for 20, 30 years, you retire and stuff like that. And it's crazy how many people nowadays, with the advent of YouTube and these kind of conversations, that they start their own businesses or YouTube channels and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
not try to come away from, I guess, the typical 9 to 5. It's just interesting to watch, kind of also as a participant, but a little bit on the sidelines, just seeing more and more people go into that. So I think it's a good message for sure.
Yeah, it's great that the information's out there, and then like not everyone has to be fire or anything like that. It's like if you love your daily life, you love your job, you love the people you're around, that's really all you can ask for. But if you think, maybe some freedom would be nice, it's something to look into.
Absolutely. And I do want to have you get back to your kid's birthday. I know he's got to pick him up probably pretty soon, but happy fourth birthday to him as well. I just have to ask a really important question before you go. I didn't let you know of this beforehand because I didn't want you to like not do the live with me. I thought you might have like actually left because I was going to put you on the spot with this. So I'm just going to say it because I'm afraid
You
what your
told me you
reaction
wouldn't bring up my OnlyFans.
but oh no, no, no. No, that's out there already. People know about that. No, I'm kidding. I just had to ask you, front and center before you go, why'd you cut your hair?
Why did I cut my hair? Honestly, I was scuba diving and it kept getting in the way of my goggles, and I just realized this is too much. As flowing and vibrant it looked, it was just getting in the way. So,
Are you for real?
um,
That's it?
seriously. Yeah, I had it long. The short answer is like it grew during COVID, and haircuts and barbers, they were just um yeah, you're pulling it up there.
This is the hair.
Um yeah, I lost my barber during COVID, not because he died or anything, but like it just was not as much of a priority at the time, and I thought I'd grow my hair out living in Hawaii the first time, and then literally one time I was like diving underwater and was just like, this is ridiculous. This is
Wow.
ridiculous.
Wow.
Um
Well,
I can go chop my hair. But yeah, and my wife is a lot happier with it cut as well.
I was
With
gonna
it.
say I do think majority of women would prefer how you look now. I'm just saying, not for anything, special, but I definitely think the short looks better. But definitely go subscribe to Mr. Fat Stacks. He's got, like we talked about, a lot of fat stacks talking about, a lot of the stuff that we talked about in the stream today. So go subscribe to him. And I appreciate you being here, man. This was a lot of fun. And I just wanted to also say thank you to Xavier again, Mike Newland, Fun, and Texas for the super chats, and everybody who was here today. It was a lot of fun. And once again, Nate, thank you for giving me your time today. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it. Been a big fan for a long time. It's a little surreal being here with the big shots.
No, no, I'm just a nonsense person. But no, it was fun. It was fun. But oh, Mr. Potato came in right at the end. I'm sorry. Well, peace out, Mr. Potato, and everyone else. All right, take care. Enjoy.